A great single-player game should stay with you long after you turn off the console, but most modern releases are forgettable. I almost gave up on gaming entirely because everything felt like a repetitive loop until I played one specific title on this list. Today, we're breaking down some of the best single-player games that changed how I look at storytelling, so you can find that magic feeling again too. We have a lot to talk about, so let's get into it. Death Stranding, Director's Cut.
You see, I've come to understand the truth of the Death Stranding.
Look, I know this game is divisive. People either call it a masterpiece or a walking simulator, and honestly, both takes kind of make sense. But here's the thing about the Director's Cut on PS5. It's the version that finally feels like what Kojima actually wanted to make, because the DualSense integration is insane. You're carrying all this cargo on your back, balancing with the triggers, and you can literally feel the weight shift in your hands. Like, if you're trudging through snow, the triggers tighten up. You're fighting to keep your balance. It's stressful in a way that actually works for the whole vibe of the game. Then there's the 3D audio, which, if you're playing with headphones, makes the BTs feel genuinely terrifying. You hear them circling you, breathing, and you don't know where they're gonna grab from. I mean, the original was already a weird, beautiful experience, but this version, it's got a racing mode, a cargo catapult, a jump ramp that lets you do tricks mid-air. It's like they just dumped a bunch of arcade nonsense into this melancholic delivery sim, and somehow it doesn't break the tone. It just makes it more Kojima, which is to say, absurd in the best way. Honestly, the first time I played this on PS4, I wasn't sure. The second time on PS5, I was hooked. It's one of those games that clicks when the tech actually supports the vision. You know what else they added? A firing range where you can just mess around with all the weapons, which sounds small, but in a game about avoiding combat, it's actually nice to have a space to just go wild. And the BB pod customization, you can dress up your little baby jar, which is weird, but so is everything else here. It's a game that asks you to buy into its specific brand of weirdness, and the Director's Cut makes that leap way easier. Astro Bot. If you've got a PS5, you probably played Astro's Playroom, the free one that came with the console. That was a tech demo. This is the real game. And it's genuinely one of the best platformers I've played in years, like rivaling Mario levels of good. The thing that gets me is how much personality they packed into every single level. You're not just running and jumping. You're using power-ups that completely change how you move through the world. One minute you've got these spring-loaded frog gloves that let you punch through walls and launch yourself across gaps. The next you're a sponge that expands and soaks up water to weigh down platforms. It's constantly throwing new ideas at you. But what really sticks with me is the DualSense stuff. You feel every surface under Astro's feet. It's the kind of tactile experience that makes you realize how underutilized haptics are in most games. And the cameos, man. There are hundreds of little bots dressed up as characters from PlayStation history. Some of them are deep cuts, like, I'm talking Ape Escape, Parappa the Rapper, stuff Sony forgot they even owned. It's not just nostalgia bait, though. It feels like a celebration, like Team Asobi is saying, hey, remember when PlayStation made fun platformers? We're doing that again. It's a game that's just pure joy from start to finish. About 10 to 15 hours depending on how much you want to collect, and I genuinely didn't want it to end. It's also way harder than you'd expect in some spots. Those challenge levels where you have to speedrun through gauntlets? Brutal, but fair, which is exactly what you want from a platformer. Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart. This is the game that actually made me believe in the PS5's SSD. Not in theory, not in a spec sheet, in practice. Because you're jumping between dimensions instantly. Like, you're fighting enemies, you hit a crystal, and bam, you're in a completely different world. No loading screen, no stutter, just seamless, fluid, instant. Insomniac straight up said this game wouldn't have been possible on PS4. And they're right. The SSD is doing heavy lifting here. When you fall through a portal, the game is loading an entirely new environment in less than a second. It's so fast you don't even notice it's happening. And the visuals, man. This is one of those games where you just stop and stare. The fur rendering on Ratchet? Absurd. The ray tracing on weapons? Gorgeous. It's a Pixar movie that you get to play. But it's not just a tech showcase. The weapons are classic Ratchet. The Enforcer shotgun lets you feel the difference between a half pull and a full pull on the trigger. It's a small thing, but it makes every gunfight feel more tactile. And the dimension hopping isn't just a gimmick. It's baked into the gameplay. One minute you're fighting through a pirate village, the next you're falling through a rift into a cyberpunk city. The pacing is wild. It keeps throwing new environments at you before you ever get bored. Honestly, it's the kind of game you show your friends when they ask why you bought a PS5. It's bright, it's fast, it's gorgeous, and it's pure fun. No open world bloat, no live service nonsense, just a tightly crafted 10 to 12 hour adventure that respects your time, which honestly is refreshing. Demon's Souls Remake. Look, before Dark Souls was a household name, before Elden Ring sold 20 million copies, there was this weird, janky PS3 game that nobody really understood. And Bluepoint went and rebuilt the whole thing from the ground up for PS5. Which is wild when you think about it. They took the game that invented the genre and made it feel like it just came out yesterday. The thing that gets me about this version is how it highlights the original level design. Later, FromSoft games are all about interconnected worlds, shortcuts looping back to bonfires. But Demon's Souls? It's 5 distinct worlds, each with its own vibe. Now, the atmosphere shift is also insane. The bosses are simpler than what came later, which honestly works in its favor. You're not fighting millennia-level nightmares. Instead, you're solving puzzles, figuring out gimmicks. Like the Tower Knight, where you have to take out the archers first, then hack at his ankles until he falls. It's a puzzle dressed up as a boss fight. Some people say the remake lost some of the original's dark, grimy atmosphere, that the art direction got too polished, too clean. And I get it. There's a certain oppressive weirdness to the original that's harder to find here. But if you're coming in fresh, none of that matters. You're just experiencing the blueprint for everything FromSoft would become. The combat is slower, more methodical, no jumping, no crazy weapon arts. Just you, your shield, and timing. Which honestly feels refreshing after how fast some of these games have gotten. It's pure, distilled Souls. Horizon Forbidden West.
You always said a storm was coming.
This is one of those sequels that just throws everything at the wall. Bigger map, more machines, underwater exploration, a glider. It's almost too much. But the thing that really works for me is how they made combat way more tactical than the first game. You can't just spam arrows and roll around anymore. The machines are smarter. They hunt in packs. They've got armor plating you need to strip off before you can even get to the weak spots. So you're scanning enemies mid-fight, pulling up the weapon wheel, switching between frost arrows to slow them down, and explosive spikes to actually do damage. It's chaotic in the best way, but I'll be honest, it can get overwhelming. There are like 10 different elemental types. Fire, frost, shock, acid, plasma, purge water, I'm probably forgetting some. And each machine has its own weaknesses. The game expects you to micromanage all of this while dodging a giant metal raptor that's trying to eat your face, which is a lot. But here's the thing, you don't actually have to engage with all of it. You can just find a build that works and stick with it. I went hard on the spike thrower and never looked back. There's something so satisfying about just launching a giant explosive javelin into a Thunderjaw's side. The world itself is massive. You've got the redwood forests, the desert canyons, the underwater sections where you're swimming past these massive machines and praying they don't notice you. And the Sunwing? Once you unlock flying, the whole game changes. You're just soaring over everything, looking for the next cauldron to override or the next tall neck to climb. It's one of those games that respects your curiosity. You see something in the distance, you can go there. Simple as that. The story gets a little convoluted, I'm not gonna lie, but Aloy's growth as a character, learning to trust people, to let them in, that part lands. It's a game that asks a lot of you, but if you're willing to engage with its systems, it gives back even more. Control.
I've been searching for this place. And now, it's my responsibility.
This is one of those games that just has a vibe, you know? Remedy is really good at that. The weird, unsettling, bureaucratic nightmare energy. You walk into the oldest house, which is this brutalist government building in Manhattan, and nothing makes sense. Like the corridors shift, the lights flicker, and there's even a janitor who seems to know way more than he should. And you're just supposed to figure it out. The combat is where it really sings. You get this service weapon that can transform into different forms. Pistol, shotgun, sniper, whatever you need. But the real star is the telekinesis. You're ripping chunks of concrete out of the walls and hurling them at enemies. You're throwing office furniture, file cabinets, entire forklifts. The office building becomes your weapon. And the physics, man. Everything breaks, everything flies. You get into these fights where there's debris floating everywhere, papers flying, chunks of wall missing, and you're just levitating in the middle of it all, launching whatever you can grab. It's chaos. The story is classic Remedy. You're piecing together what happened to this place, what the hiss actually is, why there's a floating pyramid thing that seems to be in charge. It's the kind of story that rewards you for reading every collectible and watching every video, which I know some people don't have patience for. But if you lean into it, it's so rewarding. The expansions add a lot too. The AWE one ties directly into Alan Wake, which is cool if you're into that shared universe stuff. And the other one, The Foundation, takes you deeper into the oldest house's origins. It's not a long game, maybe 15 hours for the main story, but it's dense. Every room has a secret, every hallway leads somewhere weird. It's the kind of game you think about long after you've finished it. Alan Wake 2.
A page of text, written with a typewriter.
So here's the thing. You'd think a sequel that took 13 years would just be more of the same. More Flashlight, more Taken, more Alan being a tortured writer. But Remedy did something really bold. They made you play as someone else for half the game. You're Saga Anderson, an FBI agent investigating a murder in Bright Falls, and you're walking through the woods finding these manuscript pages that describe exactly what's about to happen to you, which is terrifying because the pages are real. The story is writing itself as you go, and Alan, he's still trapped in the dark place, which this time is this nightmare version of New York. Rain-slicked streets, neon signs flickering, shadows that move when you're not looking. He's trying to write his way out, but every word he writes changes reality for Saga. So you're playing two stories that are literally rewriting each other as you go. The combat is slower, more methodical now. You're burning the darkness off enemies with your flashlight before you can even hurt them. And resources are tight, like Resident Evil 2 Remake tight. You're counting every bullet, deciding if you can afford to fight or if you should just run. But what really gets me is the mind place. Saga's got this mental space where you pin up evidence, profile suspects, connect clues. It's like being a detective in a David Lynch movie. And Alan's version is a writer's room where you literally change the plot to open new paths. Need to get through a collapsed subway tunnel? Make it a murder scene instead. The world bends to whatever story you're telling. And there's this one sequence, I won't spoil it, but there's a full musical number that is so absurd and brilliant, I had to put the controller down and just watch. It's the kind of thing nobody else would even attempt. The story is dense. It ties back to Control, connects the whole Remedy universe in ways that make you want to go back and replay everything. And the atmosphere is just oppressive in the best way. You're never comfortable. Every corner feels like something's waiting. Honestly, it's the weirdest, most confident sequel I've played in years. Resident Evil 4 Remake. Look, the original is one of those untouchable classics. You don't mess with it. Except Capcom did, and somehow made it better. The opening alone sets the tone. Leon's not just a wisecracking rookie anymore. He's haunted by Raccoon City, trying to prove he's more than the guy who survived. And then you're dropped into that village with the chainsaw guy, and it's familiar, but wrong. The villagers are smarter now. They flank you, work together, react to your movements. You can't just run in circles and wait for the bell anymore. The combat got this huge overhaul. You can move while shooting, which sounds small but changes everything. There's a parry mechanic with your knife, you're deflecting axes, chainsaws, even some boss attacks if you time it right. But the knife has durability now, so you can't just spam it. You're making choices. Do I use the knife to parry, or save it for finishing off downed enemies? And Ashley, man, the AI is so much better. She doesn't stand in front of your gun anymore. She hides, she follows your lead, and you can tell her to stay put when things get dicey. The story got some real love too. Luis Serra actually matters now. You spend more time with him, understand why he's involved. The lore around the Plagas is deeper. You find notes, read about how this parasite works, how it consumed the village from the inside. It makes the horror more grounded, and the merchant is back with his weird charm. He's got these shooting galleries that are honestly addictive. You're spending hours just trying to hit all the targets and unlocking new attachments. The castle section, which always dragged a bit in the original, feels tighter now. The island is less of a slog. They trimmed the fat without losing the spirit. The boss fights are the only place it stumbles a bit. Some of them feel less memorable than the original. But that's a small price to pay for everything else that they got right. It's one of those remakes that makes you question why you'd ever go back to the original, and I say that as someone who thought the original was perfect. Hollow Knight Silksong. This game had so much hype built up over 6 years that I honestly didn't think anything could live up to it, but Team Cherry went and did the thing. You're playing as Hornet now, not the Knight, and she moves completely different. Faster and more acrobatic. She's got this grace to her animations where she pivots before turning, just feels more fluid, which you need because Farloom is huge, bigger than Hallownest, and it's designed around her speed. You're doing these platforming sections that would have been impossible with the Knight. The combat is still punishing, don't let anyone tell you different. Enemies hit hard, bosses will wreck you, and you're dying a lot. But Hornet heals faster. She's got this silk thread mechanic that changes how you move around the environment. You're zipping through the air, hooking onto things, chaining together movements that feel almost like a rhythm game when you get it right. The story picks up with Hornet getting kidnapped and taken to Farloom. She escapes, obviously, and now she's trying to figure out what's going on in this new kingdom. There's a whole faction system with quests now. You're not just wandering aimlessly. You've got direction if you want it, but you can also just explore. And the world is packed. There's this place called Greymoor that's the biggest area Team Cherry's ever designed. You're finding breakable walls, hidden upgrades, NPCs with their own stories. One of my favorites is this pilgrim bug named Sherma, who just walks around banging a drum and singing about how excited she is to get to the Citadel. She's pure joy in an otherwise bleak world. The music is incredible again. Christopher Larkin came back, and the title theme is this haunting harp piece that just sits with you. And the difficulty discourse is real. Some people think it's too hard, but it's fair. You're learning patterns, building muscle memory, earning every victory. There's a 2-currency system now too. Rosaries for buying stuff, shell shards for crafting and repairing gear. Adds a resource management layer that wasn't there before. It's the kind of sequel that takes everything that worked in the original and just adds more. More movement, more combat depth, more world to lose yourself in. And yeah, it made my fingers hurt. Worth it. Uncharted 4: A Thief's End.
Oh, quite the crow's nest, huh?
There it is. Just on the other side of the river.
Uncharted 4 on PlayStation 4 is great, but we're not talking about that. What we have here is the Legacy of Thieves collection on PS5, which bundles this with The Lost Legacy. But honestly, Uncharted 4 is the one that hits. This is Nathan Drake's send-off. After everything, the treasure hunts, the near-death experiences, the buildings collapsing behind him, he's retired, living a normal life with Elena. And then his brother Sam shows up, the brother who was supposed to be dead. And suddenly Drake is back in the game, lying to his wife, risking everything for one last score. The story is so much heavier than the earlier games. It's not just quippy one-liners and impossible action sequences anymore. It's about addiction, about what you sacrifice for the thrill. Drake has to decide what matters more, the adventure or the people he loves. And the game makes you feel that tension. You're climbing these massive cliffs in Madagascar, swinging with the grappling hook, and the whole time you know you're betraying Elena's trust. It's uncomfortable in a way that Naughty Dog is really good at. The set pieces are ridiculous. There's this chase through a Scottish city where you're jumping between cars, climbing onto trucks, the whole thing is falling apart around you. And the final sequence in Libertalia, this pirate utopia hidden in the jungle, is one of the most beautiful levels ever designed. The combat is smoother now. You've got stealth options, more verticality. The grappling hook opens up new traversal. But honestly, the thing that sticks with me is the ending. I don't want to spoil it for you, but I'm telling you, the overall playthrough is absolutely worth it. It's Naughty Dog at the height of their powers, saying goodbye to the character that built them and doing it with class. It's the perfect ending to one of gaming's best series. But yeah, those are just some of the best single-player games that I think you really have to experience yourself. There are still lots out there, and if you have any suggestions, let us know in the comments. But as always, thanks for watching and see you in the next one.